Hey, I'm gonna be explaining different weapons and also going over them. So I made a chart here to visualize everything. So from left to right we have the type of workbench that's required, and from up to down we have the general use by the population and the effectiveness of them. So level 1 weapons are considered early game, level 2 are considered mid game, and level 3 is considered end game. So starting off with the bow, it's decently cheap and has a fairly high skill ceiling. So it is rewarding if you have practiced with it for some time. The issue with it is that the upcoming weapons will beat it in most cases. So you don't want to stick with it for too long. Although it is very good for early game and if you have no other weapon. So the crossbow, it's basically like the bow, but it shoots much slower, but also much more powerful. It does require a level 1 though, and the component to craft it is a rope. And the nail gun, it's practically a fast firing but weaker version of the bow. It's got the same velocity, but it drops down way more, so it's only really good up close. The issue with it is that it requires 15 scrap, which is very important to have if you have no BPs and you're just starting off. Um, if you have a BP for a revolver, for example, there's no reason to really use a nail gun, and you might as well just not consider it at all. The water pipe, it's a big step up from the previous weapons because it's considered a shotgun, and shotguns contain the important ability of being able to one-shot any players at assuming you're up close and you hit all the pellets. The issue with it is that you take a risk of dying being up close to use a shotgun effectively, but you're not risking all that much because the gun only costs 100 millifrags. So going over to the revolver, in my opinion, it's a big turning point in gunplay because it's much better at medium distances compared to all the previous weapons, and it only requires one pipe, which is it's more expensive than other weapons, but not really all that. It doesn't cost all that much. Um, I don't usually roam for the purpose of PvPing specifically until I get a revolver, because I think it rewards you much more for having a good shot compared to the other ones. And if you have a revolver and you can hit your shots, you will be menacing to other players who don't have it. As long as you keep your distance from shotguns, then you should be good. You should be able to kill players that are trying to start off fairly easily. And the double barrel is just like the water pipe, but it requires a pipe like the revolver. And the unique thing about it is that it can shoot 2 shots pretty quickly, so it's much more assuring that you will kill someone if you're up close if you happen to miss the first shot. It's in particularly it's pretty good for going up against ends games or mid game weapons because it's still fairly cheap, but it's can be really good up close if you're able to sneak on people. So the going over to level 2, which is the mid game, the Python is a large step up, and it comes with the mid game weapons. It does 55 damage shot, so it does a fairly high amount. Most of the time, it'll take 3 to 4 shots to kill someone, and sometimes 5 if they're far away. And just like the revolver, it rewards good aim and has a high skill ceiling, though it only has 6 shots. It can shoot these shots pretty quickly with each other, and is able to compete guns with that are in endgame like the AK. I think that it really excels when you have teammates to cover you when you have to reload consistently, and one of the main downsides for using this weapon is because of the high quality cost. High quality is pretty important, especially in early to mid game when you're making that transition, and it's not easy to get if you don't have safe access to a recycler, and the resource isn't really all that abundant or easy to get compared to what the others need. I don't usually use this gun, but if you're able to hit your shots and you're in the right situation, then it can be really good. It can pretty much just do as well as the AK, although it only shoots like an AK for 6 shots, then you have to run away and reload. So I really like the semi-rifle. It's sometimes called the SAR, it's just easier to say it. It doesn't require high quality like the Python does, and the only real noticeable thing that it requires is a decently rare component, which is the semi-body, and it's actually fairly common if you farm a road a decent amount of time. Compared to the Python, it does only fire, it only does 40 damage a shot, and it fires slower. But the really big upside is that it fires, well, it doesn't fire. It has almost 3 times the bigger clip, which is it's really reassuring. And like 16 shots most of the time, it should be enough to kill someone, even if you miss half of them. Not only that, but the guns are really good at medium to long range shooting. So it's, if you keep your distance from other people, then they're going to be forced to rush you or flee away, because sometimes it's pretty hard for them to compete against you if they don't have a semi-rifle. The issue with it is that it doesn't really do all that well compared to the Python up close. It doesn't have the faster firing speed, and only 40 damage compared to 55. It's a fairly big difference. But I still think it's a very good gun, and I use it all the time. It's nice not having to waste any high quality and to save it up for end game if you plan to go there. So the semi pistol, or the P250, it's in a pretty weird spot at the moment. It has a clip of 10 shots, so it's about in between what the Python and the semi rifle can shoot in a single mag. It has a decently faster firing speed, and it reloads pretty quick at like 2 seconds. It does the same damage as a semi-rifle though, at 40 damage, so it's basically like a semi-rifle, but it's for closer distances. It does take high quality though, and the main issue with it is that it has pretty bad aim cone, so it's not really all that good for medium to long distances. And not only that, but pistols in general are bad for long distances because of the larger damage drop-off compared to rifles. So it's kind of a personal preference and your playstyle, I suppose, but I do not recommend using the pistol, because the semi-rifle can pretty much do the same and more. So the pump shotgun, it's just as effective as the other shotguns, but it can shoot 6 shots before needing to reload. This makes it really good for up close. However, like I mentioned before, you take a pretty big risk by going up close to people. Not only that, but the Python, it's a cheaper gun, and it's overall better for doing any kind of shooting. So the pump overall, it is very situational. Let's say you're in a base and you're defending, it'll have a very nice use because you can just pop out of cover, shoot 1 shot, maybe down the enemy, then go back in safely. I don't really recommend using this gun though, because the Python or the semi-rifle, they have a cheaper cost, and they're able to generally do better in most fights compared to what the pump is, because it's situational. So the Thompson and the Custom SMG, they're also kind of in a weird spot, like the P250. Generally, I think that the Python and the semi-rifle can do just as well as these 2 guns. They do cost about 20 to 15 high quality and an SMG body, which is a noticeable difference. An SMG body can only be obtained by farming military crates at rad towns, while the Python and the semi-rifle do not. The main distinct advantage of using an SMG is that you can stand-up spray, which makes you much harder to kill, and it's easier to head peek at certain distances when shooting. When you don't have access to an AK and you're decently high on high quality, the Thompson or the Custom SMG can be a nice change from the Python and the semi, although the Python and the semi are usually much more cost effective. So now that we're done with mid-game, we move on to end-game, and the AK is probably the most important gun in the game, and it marks the point of reaching end-game items. It's the it's pretty much the most expensive PvP weapon, and is also the most effective at just about all ranges. It's really good at close ranges, it's good at medium ranges, and it's also really good at long ranges. It excels in just about every circumstance compared to any of the other guns. It requires just 4 body shots to kill someone, and at most 5 if it's at a distance beyond 30 meters. And I tell this to all my friends: if you want to be good at Rust, but you don't really want to be good with any of the guns, just get good with the AK, because you're heavily punishing yourself into endgame if you're not able to effectively use an AK. So just get good with the AK or the samurai rifle or the python, and you should actually just be good overall for Rust. So after that we have the python, which is actually pretty underused. I like it though. It's a decently effective gun for endgame. It's really accurate compared to the other 2 SMGs, but it also has a really high firing rate, so it can practically be a substitute for an AK. The issue though is that it's just about as expensive as the AK. It takes 40 high quality and an SMG body, and I think the faster firing rate really makes it harder to control, which is why people don't usually try to bother using it anyway, which leads to just more people not wanting to learn how to use it, because it's not really all that necessary. Usually at this stage you just stick with the AK, because it's only 10 more high quality and a rifle body, which is actually it's literally just as common as the SMG body is. So the last gun is the bolt, and it's about half expensive as the AK, but it's really situational. It's a gun meant to reward skillful shots like the python, but the issue with it is that it's how fast it shoots is really slow, and that in turn ends up with a much lower DPS, so you don't kill other players as often as you would with an AK or a samurai rifle. So it's kind of more as a harassment weapon, and I think the main places where the weapon really shines are with roof camping or low risk ranged PvP encounters, where you would just take a peek, shoot, then get back and recover, and then you just repeat the whole process. So this would be effective in certain fights where you, let's say you're in a big open area and there's 2 sides that are just fighting each other. If you have a bolt, as long as you're hitting shots, then you should be good, because what you're doing is you're draining the enemy's meds. Most people tend to not bandage at all. They just use 2 or 3 syringes, then peek again, and maybe get hit or maybe get a kill. So if you're hitting shots consistently with the bolt, in any situation, you'll be using a lot of the enemy's meds. So as long as you're safe and you're hitting shots with the bolt, then you're gonna be forcing them to retreat or to make a push on you. And sometimes it really hurts other people, or it really hurts other groups when you're forcing them into that kind of decision. It makes them panic a bit. So hopefully this is a good explanation on the different types of weapons and what kind of meta they have right now. I'll be making a few other videos on the sections of weapons and how to use them effectively. So have fun.